So today on the podcast, I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Gerard Browne. He's representing Irish Football Fan TV. Gerard, how are you doing?
Good, Morris, and yourself?
I'm good. So for people that don't know anyway, Gerard, tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you touched on there, my name is Gerard. I come from Roscommon. I've been living up in Dublin now kind of the last 6.5 years, so between college and between work and everything else like that. I would have come from a media background in college and stuff like that, so that's where obviously the interest in getting involved in the channel would have got involved. I would have kind of had my own podcast for a while, just kind of doing other little bits and bobs and stuff like that, and eventually got involved with Irish Football Fan TV just at the start of 2020, I suppose, before the world became crazy.
And how did your involvement come about?
So I think it was just before Christmas of 2019. Obviously, as the channel was kind of growing, and I suppose Paul Nealon, the head man, I suppose, we've been looking for different kind of ways to grow and content and ideas. He was just reaching out for volunteers, particularly to get involved in a lot of the podcasts and video content, and particularly as well with reporting on the League of Ireland matches on Friday nights through the social media platforms, and then uploading videos, post-match interviews in the channel afterwards. I would have had a bit of experience from the 2019 season. I know people probably be familiar with the podcast Between the Stripes. They had a YouTube channel, so I had a bit of a background from that. So that's how it came about, and thankfully I haven't looked back since. I hope the channel hasn't looked back since either.
No, the channel seems to be growing in a nice, steady direction, and it's just a shame with the COVID. Obviously, things have probably, like everything, stagnated a little bit because, you know, there's no fans at games and things like that. How have you found the last say 9 to 10 months? Has it been much different for you?
Yeah, it was kind of like a lot of people when the virus kind of hit back in March and everything was kind of suspended. We're kind of thinking that this is a disaster. Like, we're going to kind of struggle for content and our main purposes of getting out to matches and stuff like that on Friday night. But first lockdown, in a way, was very, very kind to the channel, because I suppose through the reputation, the connections that it would have built up since it started up in 2017, we managed to get a lot of interviews with current players on it, particularly like Darren Randolph, Johnny Egan, Conor Hurahan, a lot of the younger lads as well, Aaron Conley, Jason Malumbi, Dara O'Shea done one as well at the end of the summer. Even, you know, players that might have been in around the fringe of the team, like Alan Judge. I think we even got Roy O'Donovan, who's playing the A-League as well. And we got a lot of ex-players as well, the likes of Kevin Sheedy, Andy Reid, Matt Holland, who of course has been very good down to China. So it was very good that kind of way. And I suppose then at the tail end of the year, we kind of had the combination with the league coming back and with the start of the Ireland games, and we were very fortunate that one of our members as well, Gary Spain, who fans might know has been going to Ireland games for decades, he went to a lot of the away matches. So we were kind of in a privileged position. We were one of the very few media outlets providing a media source from the Ireland away matches, and obviously with Paul at the home games. We had the League of Ireland matches going as well. We were very fortunate to be the one of a handful of people to get into that. So kind of the way I look back, even though 2020 was a tough year for everyone, but from away from a channel point of view, we got the balance and the perfect parts of both worlds, really.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos of the guys in the stadium as well, which makes a huge difference, kind of talking about the games after they finished at that.
Yeah, the instant match reactions, it's kind of very, very good. You see a lot of them, like on a lot of the YouTube channels, like for instance, I'm a Liverpool supporter in the winter time when the League of Ireland isn't on, so I'd watch a lot of the Redmen TV and what they do, and I think it's very good as well that you can get someone from the stadium as an instant reaction to kind of see someone there as well. It makes it kind of more live, makes it kind of more appealing. Something we would have done small but with League of Ireland games, but it's great, like as you've seen with Paul at the home matches since September and Gary at the away matches.
Yeah, so is obviously then your connection, like the FAI know about you guys, they're happy enough with what you're doing, like, as well, and they're giving you the green light to kind of go with it.
Yeah, it's just like obviously I was only on board in the channel 12 months, so by that stage we were given our media passes and stuff like that. But just from talking to Paul, like when he first started up and everything else like that, he was always very, very thankful and always felt that the FAI were very, very good. Some always got on board. They weren't long in terms of giving out media passes. Like for instance, I think the channel was only up and running 14-15 months by the time Mick, McCarthy and Stephen Kenny's announcement was confirmed, and Paul got in for access to that. I think that was his first time. Like, so even that kind of just shows in the short space of time how far and quickly the channel had grown. And it's great to see even now, like as well, they keep it up, not just with matches as well. Anytime there's press conferences, events, launches, anything else like that, we always get invites from the FAI, which is fantastic to see.
It's nice to see them progressing that way, considering like fan channels are such a huge part of football now, particularly in England. Like, it's nice to see that we're not getting left behind over here.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, and you can see it here as well. Like a couple of the League of Ireland clubs, like Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers, are just two I know of that I started up to see here, and it is kind of a new kind of content kind of side of things, a new kind of culture, as you mentioned, with the fans channel. Like, see it big time in England, and it is kind of great because like there's a lot of people out there that kind of like, well, we want to hear the kind of the raw reactions, kind of the emotion kind of side of things away from a part of the game as well, and kind of like to hear the opinions of kind of like similar kind of people themselves that kind of go through a similar background, kind of go through similar kind of emotions in the match and stuff like that. So it is kind of very, very good. It is something that we are going to see a lot more of, and it's great to see that, you know, we're embraced and taken on board by the FAI.
Yeah, I had a few of the guys on this podcast as well from Arsenal Fan TV. You know, that's probably the most infamous of the football podcasts, but those guys get a lot of stick as well. Like, and I was chatting to a friend of mine about it the other day. It was like, they pay money, they go to games, they have their opinion. Let them have their opinion. If I don't agree with it, or someone else doesn't agree with it, so be it. That football's based on opinions, so I'm sure that me and you probably have different opinions about many things of football. So I think channels like that really are the way to go, just to get every side and aspect of people's views, I think.
100%. Like, it's the same like when you listen to the journalists and the ex-players and everything else like that, whether it's on off the ball or second captains or everything else like that. Like, you're not going to always agree with it, with what they say as well, and you have different views, and you have pundits you like and you have pundits you don't like because of their views and stuff like that. And it's the same as well with the channels you touched on there, like the Arsenal Fan TV getting a lot of the grief and stick and like that. And it is kind of an easy way to kind of target, to hit the fans channels as opposed to maybe like the so-called experts. But look, you're not going to please everyone. Like, at the end of the day, it's just a game of football. It's just someone's opinion. Whether you like it or you don't like it, at the end of the day, I don't see how it's going to impact your way of life and how you go about living things. So I don't get why it kind of seems to kind of get people up the wrong way and everything else like that, as you touched on as well. But look, it's just important just to kind of block it out and just realise that's going to be there. There's no point kind of engaging or reacting with it, because it's not going to do anything for the image, it's not going to do anything for yourself, and it's just better to leave it unattached.
You guys probably don't experience that level of hate that those guys would, because like when I see your interviews and stuff, like you're fairly balanced, but at the same time you have your views, but you're not too out there as well. Like, you're not like saying stuff looking for views and things like that. You're just kind of saying it as it is. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, just kind of go back to like what the main purpose of the fan is, just to kind of like what's inside you and what's your own thoughts and your own feelings, and kind of trying to gather the wider summary of fans and like letting out your kind of your raw emotions after a match or everything else like that. Unfortunately, like a lot of it in 2020 for Ireland games has been on the negative side of things. But like as you touched on there, like with the Arsenal Fan TV, I think that's kind of inevitable, because with such a big global brand and global club that Arsenal is, you're going to always attract a lot more interest. Obviously, we're kind of a little bit more tighter knit kind of community that we're just kind of, you know, reaching to a lesser audience in terms of Irish people. And we do have kind of a good kind of nature of kind of like, you'd like to think that it is a case of like we get behind one another and kind of support each other, and that we're all hoping for and wishing for the one thing and the same thing. Like, you'd hope that kind of comes across.
I used to watch Arsenal Fan TV, but the way I see it now is it just kind of, I still like some of the guys that are on it, and I watch maybe their individual podcasts and different things like that. But when I click on it now, it just seems to be very business orientated. Like, it's full of ads. I know you guys have recently got sponsorship, and that's great, but it's not as in your face as like you have Ladbrokes logos all over the place and things like that. And it just seems that it's more kind of business orientated now than a fan channel, which is a shame.
Yeah, but obviously we're not being an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't watch much of that channel. But like, I know what you mean, kind of like there is kind of that kind of like commercial kind of side to things now. But that's just also kind of another maybe element of kind of how far and how quick that channel has grown as well over the years. It's got that reputation for kind of being out there and kind of outrageous, so they know they're going to kind of get loads of views. Particularly like, as you were saying to me off air, especially with a team like Arsenal, who over the last couple of years are just so up and down. Like, you just never know when a good run is going to come or when they're on a bad run, when it's ever going to end. Like, so it is kind of interesting. But I suppose it is kind of something as well I've even touched on as well from like watching the Red Men TV from Liverpool point of view. Like, there's a break for 10 or 15 seconds halfway through a podcast where like they're advertising stuff and stuff like that. It's almost kind of like a radio show that's taking a break, and that's kind of, I suppose, going to be a concept creeping in. But the way they're looking at it is, well, like, look, these people are paying good money towards us. They know they want to get something out of return. Like, so you kind of do have to kind of like, you know, look after the ones that are looking after you as well. So I can see like why Arsenal Fan TV are doing what they do. I know maybe it can be a little bit annoying when you're watching. You're into a good, like, for instance, sometimes with a YouTube channel, it could be just a podcast where you could just stick it on the background while you're working. You're into a really good rhythm with it, and then you break and you're listening to something that's kind of off topic. But it's just what it is, I suppose. And like everything else, like with COVID, sure, we're adapting to 11 months later. I'm sure we'll adapt to advertisements in YouTube channels and podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like it's something that as a podcaster or YouTube, like if someone is paying you to put ads in your channel, you're not going to say no. Like, you know, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood for them. Like, as you're seeing yourselves, like, it's great for us that, you know, it's taken a long time, and thankfully it finally got there for us. We've got like our first sponsorship on board since January, but like we hope that's just going to be the first of many to come, hopefully before this time next year, inside the next couple of months, whenever it is, like, because it is quite important that you're getting some of this bit out of it. Obviously the company are going to get more exposure out of it, but for your own kind of point of view, that's good money that can be put towards to really kind of improving your kind of channel, because you can always improve. There's always things to work on. You can always make it that good bit better.
Yeah, we touched earlier on the Stephen Kenny and the Mick McCarthy announcement. At the time, it seemed like I thought that was a really good idea. But then when the COVID hit and the games got delayed, and then Mick was out of a job and Kenny came in without Mick kind of finishing what he'd started, I just thought that it was the wrong decision. I don't know what you think about that. Now, I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but at the time I was like, I think he should have been allowed just play that playoff game at least.
Yeah, I think you touched on there, like, not getting to finish out where he started. It was the same with Stephen Kenny. Like, he missed out on 2 games that would have been over for the under-21s, and we know how their campaign ended after he left. So, like,
yeah,
things could be completely different. Could be looking forward to 2 major tournaments this summer. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. I think it's just the timing, that the way the playoff game, because it was sandwiched in between Nations League matches as well. So was it a case of like that, as you said, Mick stays on? He was over the 2 Nations League games in September, stays on for the playoff, and just say it ended the same way as it did. Then Stephen Kenny's meant to take over the rest of the campaign. It was just unfortunate with the timing, the way it felt. I, at the time, probably felt it was the best thing, because I kind of felt like if we had qualified and we already were through automatically and we didn't have that playoff, I would have said, look, Mick got us there. He's entitled now to see out the rest of the job. But I think the fact that, like, Mick had his chance, he still had 8 games in the groups, in the qualifying. There were a couple of good results, but there was some poor results, particularly Georgia away. It's just not even just the fact we drew, but the fact we more or less played for a draw in the game that if we won, we knew destiny was going to be our own hands. So from that kind of point of view, I could kind of see, and just the way it's sandwiched in between other games and other campaigns, I can see why they went about it. Would have been kind of in favour of it. But as you said, like, look, maybe if they kind of had kept on Mick, he might have had a way of knowing Mick, like, he might have found a way just to kind of like grind out a goal from some kind of corner or free kick. And the fact that the 21s were going so well, momentum, I'm so used to playing under Stephen Kenny, that they'd be off to Hungary and Slovenia this March as well. But it's just what it was, unfortunately.
That's funny you should touch on that, because I was thinking the change in style from McCarthy to Kenny, and it was like people are saying, right, we're going to play more expansive football, we're going to play better. But traditionally, from watching Ireland, we don't have a history of playing that way. Now, I'd love us to play that way, but we have a history of just grinding out results, you know, that kind of way. And then for us to completely change style, now it may happen and it may take time, but at the moment, I know there's been COVID issues and everything, but at the moment it's it's not looking good from my point of view, and this is my opinion now. So, and we're talking earlier about opinions, but I just think that we've had 8 games, we've won none of them. We scored 1 goal, and then they're talk about possession and things like that. We were outpossessed twice by Finland and beaten by them twice. A team 20 places below us in the rankings. And I'm just thinking, is it the manager or is it the implementation of the new style that's going to take time? And I know there was COVID injuries or COVID issues as well within the camp. What do you think? What road do you think we're going down?
You can definitely see you could see even the first game against Bulgaria and even the Finland game that double here in September, kind of like what Kenny is kind of trying to do, and he carried on obviously into the rest of the games and stuff like that. And it is kind of different. It is going to take a while. I probably thought maybe it might have been a little bit quicker transition. Maybe it just kind of underlines how massive a step up it is, and it probably actually honestly is. But like watching Ireland have done the 21s, you could see what Kenny but they were an attractive team to watch, particularly that second half against Sweden when they just turned the game completely on its head to win 4-1 after being a goal down at half time. Kind of probably maybe was a little bit optimistic, thinking like we could kind of see something like that, because as you touched on, like some of the standard oppositions in that Nations League, particularly Bulgaria, Finland, as you touched on, 20 places below us, although like they did qualify for the Euros, they are in a good place at the moment, despite what the ranking might say. You kind of thought like that we will kind of beat these teams, but as you said, like it's never an Ireland psyche to beat teams kind of handsomely and convincingly and play them off the park, even in our golden eras. Like we always just kind of grinded out results. So it is kind of annoying. It is kind of disappointing, frustration. You're saying like you can see that we do keep a lot of the ball, but a lot of time, like I've kind of just found, and maybe it's just because of the COVID and the issues, and maybe it's more of a problem than we realise, because of obviously we don't have that many maybe quality attackers, but we still can be quite boring to watch. Particularly found the last game against Bulgaria, you could just tell it was a team bereft of confidence. It didn't really kind of play with much kind of idea or identity, and we're just kind of almost kind of keeping the ball for the sake of it. Now I do think, like as you touched on, COVID injuries, we don't even have many players in attacking opposition or attacking positions in club form in great or attacking positions in great form. Like Dave McGoldrick is the only one, and he's retired. So
big loss.
It just goes show since he's retired, like he's now scoring plenty of goals in the Premier League. Like, so I do think Stephen Kenny is unfortunate that like we knew anyway before Stephen Kenny took this job that like we didn't really have. We had a couple of potential good prospects coming up, the likes of Conley, Ida, and stuff like that, but particularly in Ida's case, I think he's still really learning his game. He's not played that much.
I don't think he should be playing, really. Not yet.
No, I think that Wales game in Cardiff, the second last game, really kind of proved it. He just looked like a boy out there, and like probably someone who isn't as technically as gifted as him, but because he was a bigger fish, James Collins came on, and straight away he had a presence about him, and we had a little bit more kind of an attacking option in that game. But so like we knew we kind of didn't have many, just going back to the earlier point, like attacking options before Kenny took over. So I don't think I think he's unfortunate from that kind of point of view. He can't just get a magic wand and hit on these players and suddenly turn good. As I touched on, like we don't have anyone in the Premier League who's doing it regularly. Aaron Connolly, 2 goals this season. Callum Robinson, same number as well. As I mentioned, Ida now is out injured at the moment. Callum McDowell is out injured at the moment, but he's kind of been hit and miss as well. Shane Maguire has been in and out the Preston team. Like, so from that kind of point of view, you can kind of see why we're not kind of scoring goals.
Yeah. In terms of looking at the World Cup qualifying group, right? So we got Portugal, Serbia, ourselves, Luxembourg, Azerbaijan, and I know Qatar in there as well, just for the sake of a few practice games for them. But I'm looking at that group, and there's absolutely no reason, I don't think in my mind, that we can't finish second.
This is the thing I kind of can't quite get. And I get it from a lot of kind of point of view. You kind of like, I'm not just singling out yourself, but you're kind of a little bit kind of worried and scared about like, and not sure of our identity and where we're kind of going, which is kind of fair enough, because as I touched on, the last couple of games, particularly that Bulgaria game at home, was not encouraging at all. And that kind of seems to be the general gist of a lot of people, that like, oh, we're kind of going nowhere. And suddenly when they see a draw like that, which is half decent because like we could have got a lot worse second seeds in Serbia. Forget about Portugal top seeds; that was always going to be a nightmare.
If we took 1 point, if we took 1 point from 6 against Portugal and took care of business, we'd be there.
True, but I don't see us taking anything off Portugal. But I think like that people are kind of now like suddenly totally changed their mind, thinking, oh yeah, now we can kind of get out of that group. I know Serbia aren't world beaters, and their Nations League campaign wasn't a whole lot better than ourselves. They only won 1 game, that was their last game towards the end. But like they've been at more World Cups than us. They were in our last group. They took 4 points off us. They've had better underage come up over the last couple of years. They're getting teams to under 21 major championships. Like we haven't ever had a team that stage. So like they do seem to be probably in a slightly better place than ourselves. And like just the way as well the fixtures fall as well. That first game away against Serbia, like we lose that game, pretty much like the group could be pretty much gone there straight away. Like we'll have to beat Serbia at home, which again can be an issue for us. Like we don't have a good record in the Aviva. As you touched on, try to get a point off Portugal. Like playing Portugal is going to be very similar to playing against England. Like we're going to be largely up against the cost for a lot of that game. So I do think second place is possible, but I just find it very hard to think how people are going at the end of November thinking this team is going nowhere. It's 2 weeks later seeing a draw and suddenly like, oh, we can get second place. Like, but I'm like, nothing has changed in terms of the team's makeup.
Yeah, I think just looking at it on paper though, in our squad, and if the right players were picked and if everyone was injury free, and you just look down at that group and you think like if we're to take care of Serbia in that group, you would imagine that Luxembourg and Azerbaijan would be more than beatable for 6 points. Not saying easy 6 points, but Serbia are definitely the candidates for second place with us there. Like, I think we'll accept Portugal are going to win the group.
Yeah, like we know ourselves we're playing for second place, and if we can get second, I think that would be an achievement regardless of what happens in the playoffs, because playoffs again is going to be tricky. 2 separate one-legged ties again, like, is not ideal. I agree with you, like Luxembourg and Azerbaijan, it'd probably be something similar to like Georgia and Gibraltar in the last group. Like we will probably be struggling to break down teams that play 11 men behind the ball, and we'll probably just grind out a 1 or 2-0 victory through fortunate goals or something else like that. It's even similar to Martin O'Neill's last campaign. Like Seamus Coleman scored a goal that I'd say he doesn't even know how he did still to this day against Georgia. It'd be that kind of way. But yeah, like that first game against Serbia, as I mentioned, away, like it's ironically enough similar to the last campaign. We got them away as well at the start of a World Cup campaign. If we could just at least avoid defeat that game, it'll leave us in a good track, because like if we lose that, we're playing kind of catch up, and it'll probably put a lot of pressure onto the home fixture then. As you said, like you kind of nearly want, if Portugal are definitely going to beat us home and away, then we definitely need them to beat Serbia home and away, because any point Serbia take off them, like that's a bonus for them, like, so, and probably the same for ourselves, like, but yeah, like it is going to be it's probably going to be the hardest World Cup ever to qualify for, because of the fact if you even finish second, you still have to beat 2 more teams as opposed to a traditional 2-legged playoff. So that is going to make it very, very difficult.
And are they going to be European ties, or is it going to be like the time we played? Remember we played Iran in the lead up to 2002. What way is that going to work?
I think it's going to be all Europeans, similar to like when we played France in 2010 and Denmark in the last World Cup. Like, so it's just like yourself. Like we can, like in the way the games fall as well, they're going to be 4 or 5 days between each other, not like the last time where there was going to be a month between them. You know yourself, like for instance, prime example is we got that great result against Germany, Shane Long's goal, but 3 days later we couldn't back it up against Poland. We kind of fearful of the same thing happening again. We could get a great result in the semi-final of the playoff, and then have to try and pick ourselves up when we could be just mentally and physically just recover from that high. Is always something Irish teams kind of struggle with. Like, so, look, who knows? Maybe we can do an absolute miracle and we can beat Portugal. Maybe they'll get a massive COVID outbreak and we can beat them and then go on to top the group.
Where do you think realistically we'll finish in the group?
I think realistically it's going to be between second and third, and I think them 2 Serbia games. Like I said, even that first game, it's kind of annoying because like you have that game, you have the Luxembourg at home, and then I think there's a friendly with that Qatar to make up fixtures in the group, and then we don't have anything in September. So you're kind of thinking like, but the fixture gods have not been a bit kinder to us, and we could have maybe, I don't know, had a bye and then just Luxembourg at home, and like don't put like the most important game straight away, put all the pressure on, even though we haven't kicked the ball since November, the fact we haven't won games, there is no any slight bit of morale or kind of a confidence going into the squad. Like, so it does make it very, very difficult. The head says second, the heart says second. The head probably says third at the moment. But like I said, if we can produce a good result in Belgrade first game, like in fairness to Stephen Kenny, like I would be one of them that says I give him plenty of time. But for the people out there that might be already calling for his head, his one real major game so far was that game in Bratislava, and it was by far and away our best performance. And a bit more luck, we would have won that game and wouldn't even have a penalty shootout. So you're hoping that the players can dig out that big game mentality again from the end of March.
Yeah, it can't get any worse than the last few games. Like, so surely, we've got a few performances in the locker, I think.
Unless we lose to Luxembourg at home, that is getting worse.
Well, then we
go down that road.
Then the old Serbia games won't be crucial at all.
No.
In terms of the channel, then I see you're wearing a top there. Do you do merchandise on that as well?
We do. Well, yeah. To answer your question on these, they're just for ourselves. So just kind of we kind of suppose we're always wearing them when we're covering report matches and everything else like that. So it's kind of a good way to kind of like a bit of kind of free marketing, I suppose, with branding and putting the name out there and everyone know. But we do actually do merchandise as well. There is plenty of that as well. If you actually go onto our website, a couple of good design shirts, like Talia 90. There's one with James McLean. A couple of good stuff from the Jack Charlton days as well. And all that as well. So you can find that on our website as well. Obviously, IrishFootballFanTV.com. It's all there as well. I think they're only like €5. Not 100% sure. They're very, very good quality as well. So I would highly recommend them. Be good to get them as well, and hopefully people can be wearing them in the Aviva Stadium soon.
I'll put that link in the bio for the website anyway. And it was great to chat to you. And thanks a million for your time.
No worries, Morris.
We'll hopefully maybe catch up in March and see how things are doing if you're up for
it. Yeah, or is this still part of the on the air bit? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Lack of professionalism. Yeah, fingers crossed. Be up for that. Hopefully we can preview that trip ahead in March, and hopefully then we might be doing a review after with 6 points and a great friendly victory.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for your time, Gerard.
No worries, Morris.
Cheers.